I believe you can learn it. You can learn to connect. And it's all about verbal and non-verbal communication. Verbal communication, I would say, is true. Kids don't learn it very much with a WhatsApp and just slogans and small words. And that's not real verbal communication. So that's something to be learned. That children just learn to say, to be authentic and just speak from themselves. Learn maybe also more expressions. Say, for example, I feel this, or I would love that, or, and be interested in the other, because what this world really needs is an active listening ear, people listening to you. That's really one thing. So ask interested questions. So something kids could learn. And then there is this part of non-verbal communication. We haven't talked about that. That's something maybe you emanate, it's an energy you emanate. And that has all to do, what Hasmik said, with your background, with your family. Did your parents teach you such a thing? Or did they maybe say to you very often, oh, you can't do that, and you don't know how to express yourself? You have sometimes parents who are overcritical, and that becomes a blind spot in a child or in a person, because somehow you're going to avoid situations like that. And you just think, I can't do it anyway, or you're often not even aware of that sort of blind spot. That's, of course, a shame, because if you would just be aware of the blind spot and know there's nothing to do with reality, you can connect to others and you can get rid of that blind spot, which overwhelms you. Then you can also, make that contact more easily. So that's often, I think, the blockage of many people, also adults in business life as well. That they are not aware of what kind of energy they emanate, and that's also something. I mention it again. I work with horses because they just detect immediately your blind spots and your nonverbal communication. Dogs do, and lots of animals do, and it's wonderful to work with those in this case. So that was the nonverbal communication bit.
I just feel like as a society, we teach the children, they are born pure and so like normal. And we basically, as a society, teach them to be like not so good. Because I remember in an incident a few years ago, very clearly, my oldest was maybe 6 years old, and we were at the pool. Like, this is a community pool in our community, in our town. So we go there, and then there's other children, and there's a woman whose son is friendly or friends with my son. And then they're like in the pool playing together, and then they come out, and then the mother asks my son, "Oh, are you happy to see so-and-so, her child?" And of course, my son was brutally honest. He was like, "No, not really." I was mortified. I mean, he's being honest, right? I mean, he's totally being honest, because he didn't really, I mean, he was casually friendly with him. They're different ages, different interests, and so on. Now, as an adult, obviously you're going to be polite. You're going to say, "Sure, it's so nice to see you," right? But here it is. There's a child, like, I don't remember, 5 or 6 years old, and he's being brutally honest. And he says, "Oh, I don't, would you like, I think something about like, would you like to see him again," or something like that. And he was like, "No." That I was on the way home, I was lecturing him, and I was telling him that is inappropriate, and that you should always think of other people's feelings, and you shouldn't say anything that's going to hurt another person's feelings. But it's like counterproductive, because here you are talking about people that need to be, aware of their inner feelings and be honest and make real connections. And then on the other hand, there is a kid who is developing, and here I am telling him, don't be honest, don't be real, and be superficial. So I mean, what do you do with that?
No, Anna, I don't think they should be dishonest, but you can say it. Let's say they can learn to say it in a more empathic way. They can say, "Well, to be honest, I'm a bit busy, or I've got quite a lot of things to do. I'm sorry. I believe I need to spend my time a little bit differently. Maybe another time." It's the way. C'est le ton qui fait la musique, you say in French. It's really the tone which makes the music. So that's what children can learn. Just say it in a nice way. You can still be honest, but it's the way you say it. I believe that's where, the solution could be.
That's really really good. And then I just another thing that I just remembered from Tommy's story. Recently I went to a networking event with a bunch of people. There's a lot of business owners. A friend of mine had invited me, so I go in and there is this one gentleman. He's talking about his product and their company, blah blah blah. And he just wouldn't let anybody else talk about anything else. He was just dominating the conversation, talking, talking, talking. And for a while, it's interesting to hear about his product, to hear about their, company and what they make and all this. But then after a while, I was like, okay, I'm done with this conversation. Let's move on. And he just wouldn't. And I'm looking around the room, and everybody's either on their phones or they're like glazing or and then, to Tommy's point, I'm like, people need to be aware of, like, at what point do you stop? Is this interesting to other people? What you're talking about, is it interesting to others? So finally, I had to like literally force him out of that particular conversation. And I started asking questions that were not relating to what he was talking about. And then what happened was it was like two conversations happening simultaneously because he didn't get the point. He didn't get the clue. And even though I had started a different conversation, he goes back with another person again, still talking about his company. I was like, oh no. And the thing is like, for me to go to this event, I have to get dressed. I have to leave my children home. I have to basically make arrangements for my child care. And I have to drive there. I have to park my car. It's late. And then I have to do the same coming home. So our time is so precious. And communicating with people is so important. And developing meaningful relationships and conversations is so important. And here you go to this event hoping to get like meaningful relationships or even connections, and there is this one person who is like just blindly talking about the same thing over and over again. It just will not let it go. So how do you deal with this situation? What do you do?
I believe again there, you must really learn to listen to your inner voice, your intuition. If you feel a person is going too far, you need to think of your boundaries. And sometimes you just have to say very nicely, but assertively, sorry, I'm sorry, at the moment I don't have the time, or I really need to focus on this and that. You can say it in a nice way, but you need to also to look at your boundaries. You can't be all the time nice either. There's empathy, but there's also the assertiveness, and you need to find the balance a bit for yourself, with other people.
Right. If you don't value your time, then nobody else will.
No.
So it starts with you.
Yeah.
Alexandra, that was so nice to have you as a guest. Thank you so much, everyone. Till next time. Bye, guys.